there's a way that I hate how they phrase this, but the rich always get richer and poor get poorer. But it's not because of chance or fluke or predatory practices. It's the fact that they understand how to spot opportunity, and they have the cash to capitalize on it. I know this first chance because in 2007, when we had a big crash. Welcome back, Sales World. This is Ready, Set, Sell, Episode 2, Season 2. I am your host, Donny Wong, and across from me is your magnificent co-host, Michael Siervo.
What's going on, everyone? Donny, great to be here as always. What a great setup.
Once again, in our new studio. We touched about it in Episode 1, but guys, we crushed it with the studio.
Never gets old, right? Never gets old.
Episode 2 is a word that we're hearing lots in the last 6 months, but probably you can hear lots about it, more about it in the next 8 to 18 months, and that is the recession.
Very scary R word that we're hearing a lot of people talk about, and it, you could literally, Donny, Google anything or just open the news and you're going to see people talking about the recession. And I think for purposes of today, as you and I, as high-performing individuals, as salespeople, how do we mentally get ourselves ready for this dreaded R word, which, in my opinion, is inevitably going to happen. If not, we're already in it. It's if not already happening.
And I'd also like to take this opportunity, selfishly for this episode, and just to ask you about the recession. Obviously, you're much more of a what they would call a sophisticated financial mind. So selfishly, I'm going to take this episode and really talk to you about it. Hopefully our audience can learn some things about it. But to start off, what the heck is a recession exactly?
Well, what a recession is, the technical definition is 2 consecutive quarters of shrinking of the economy of GDP. And it's essentially an economic slowdown. It could be caused by multiple different things, whether it's going to be, an asset class issue, a pandemic like COVID happened, technological changes, inflation, whatever it might be. There's so many different causes of a recession. But if you look back in history, in terms of Canada, we've had roughly around 6 different recessions. I remember 2008, which was, the Great Recession, and it was crazy. I was at the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and literally I saw red everywhere. People were just selling, and it was doom and gloom. And in fact, we almost had to get kicked out of the floor of the Stock Exchange. I said, okay, look, something's happening. The world is kind of falling apart. Donny, the reality is the world is not going to fall apart. Recessions happen. They're normal. And contrary to what people think, they're actually quite predictable. Now, what's not predictable is a correction, because that could happen. That's essentially just a 10% drop in the market. But a recession, you could kind of predict it. You could see it coming. It's almost telegraphed. And this one, I would argue that it is likely the most telegraphed recession in history.
Well, that's great, because if we get the indicators of where we're going and we have a history of these events happening, what would you say is things that could help salespeople navigate as we enter into this upcoming recession?
Yeah, the thing is, most people are focusing on the doom and gloom. It's inevitable. And essentially, when you're thinking about a recession, you think we're going to have 2 consecutive quarters that's down. Now, here's the thing that's quite interesting, is that the economy is more of a thermometer. The stock market is more of a barometer, meaning when you're going through a recession, you're going through it, but the stock market is predicting future earnings. It's saying, okay, this is what the XYZ company expects to earn in the next 12 months or whatever. And if they don't hit it, of course, it's going to be reflected in their stock value. So it's very forward looking. Whereas when you're looking at the economy, it's actually almost backwards looking. By the time we determine whether or not we're in a recession or not, we're likely on the way out, because the data is going to be collected and it's already old. It's like, two months later, or a couple months later, whatever it might be, you're like, oh yeah, we're in a recession. I would argue, Donny, that we're likely in a recession. We're likely already going through it, if not on the way out. Now, everyone, let's talk about the obvious. It's an economic slowdown, which is a shrinking of the GDP. And oftentimes a lot of it is psychologically driven as well. If you feel that there's going to be slowdown in the market, and you think, okay, my restaurant or my business is going to slow down, oftentimes people get more defensive, right? They stop spending money. They don't invest on other things when things are going really, really well. So it's almost self-fulfilling prophecy to a certain extent, because if you're becoming defensive in nature, you start to control your expenses. You start to lay people off. We start to see that happen. When we start to lay people off, there's less people working. Well, if there's less people working, they're not going out. They're not going out to restaurants, which means a restaurant is not making money, and that restaurateur is not generating enough revenue to expand, hire more people. So the velocity of money really slows down. And I think as a salesperson, what we need to do is, it's not all doom and gloom, right? It's there's going to be some gloom, but I don't think it's doom. I don't know if that makes sense. There's going to be some bad times. It's inevitable. But there are companies that actually do well in a recessionary period.
What kinds?
So a great example, let's say, for instance, if you are like a defensive company, they tend to do well. Where you wouldn't do well in a recession, like technology, for instance. Technology is you're investing, and I'm going to go into investments.
Please do.
So in technology, you're forward looking. You're paying a little bit more in terms of your price earnings. You're paying a little bit more because you think that this technology is going to change the world. It's going to become efficient. It's going to do all these other things. But that may or may not happen. All of a sudden, when you're in a recession, there's a lot more uncertainty. So technology is not necessarily a certain. So that might, and we're seeing it right now. Like tech has been hammered. You see companies like Microsoft, Facebook, all these other companies are just getting crushed, annihilated. Now you couple that with the crypto winter and all that other stuff, and just technology is just kind of rough. Now, if you could stomach the ride and you think long term, it's not a bad opportunity to invest at low prices. The other thing I would look at is real estate. And that's your world during a recessionary period. The wealthy tend to get wealthier.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they got money.
That's right.
And when everyone's panicking and selling their houses because they think the world is going to fall apart, all of a sudden someone like you comes in and says, yep, I'm going to buy this at 70 cents on the dollar. And so I think there are opportunities to really take advantage of. I would look at quality. So during a recession, you look at quality. You look at companies that have a proven track record, that have proven to take advantage of the economy and who can always pivot and be able to pass off any type of inflationary pressure or pricing pressure down to their clients. You want to invest in companies that are the leaders in their industry. It's a great opportunity for you to buy large cap companies, like giant mega cap companies at a massive, massive discount.
That's wonderful. Now, let me ask you this, because I think for myself, and this is a great tip for salespeople, you kind of outlined it, is that there's going to be buying opportunities. There's going to be times when things that were valued at a fair market value maybe just a year ago are now are going to hit a fire sale. Right. Real estate's a great one. Like you said, large cap companies. I'm sure FAANG's getting beat up right now. They just reported in America a loss of 100,000 jobs in the tech sector since September. And so what that means for the common salespeople, our family out here, is that if you're having a hot streak right now, if you are absolutely tearing up your sales right now, stack that cash. Yeah. Stack that cash for not only just for a possible winter, but as well realizing that you have a chance to scoop up a lot of equity here. There's a way that, I hate how they phrase this, but the rich always get richer and poor get poorer. But it's not because of chance or fluke or predatory practices. It's the fact that they understand how to spot opportunity, and they have the cash to capitalize on it. I know this first chance because in 2007, when we had a big crash, coupled with our city, Calgary, was going through a tough winter as it was. And so what happened was, all my friends that had cash, once everything hit the fan, they were buying up real estate for pennies on the dollar. Now, when I was a young kid, about 22 or 23 at the time, I had no cash. And I just remember thinking, holy cow, everyone just got so rich.
You're right.
And at the time, I didn't understand it, because I was just like, okay, well, these are the guys that always made money. So cool, they had the opportunity. But that stuck with me. And I remember telling myself in 2007, next time this happens, I'll be ready.
Right.
So what would you say to salespeople in terms of, because we hear right now, holding cash is a bad thing because of inflation. It's eating away at your buying power. But if we were to give our salespeople some insight on the terms of the difference between how much they're going to lose in inflation and the buying opportunity, how would you give our audience some very, heads up, look out for these?
Yeah, you know what? You nailed it. You're talking about the idea of shoring up your cash because you want opportunities. And Warren Buffett always says, be greedy when people are fearful and be fearful when people are greedy, right? So right now we're in a time when people are fearful, which means we should be greedy. We should be an opportunist. I'm not saying that we're taking advantage of people. Going back to your point, we're not predatory. We're just essentially saying, here's an opportunity out there. And I think you would probably know this better that, the Chinese symbol for, I think it was adversity or something, means it's like a two-way symbol. And one of them says opportunity, one of them means danger, like the Chinese symbol for crisis, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, so something along those lines. We tend to focus on the crisis, the danger part of it,
right.
But then there is opportunity. So going back to your point, is cash the great asset class?
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that cash right now is actually a pretty decent asset class. Mm-hmm. Now, historically, let's say in the last, 15 years or so, cash wasn't very, very good because you're not earning anything off of that. Right. You have that inflationary pressure that's going to erode your purchasing power over time. But you could put your money in cash right now and literally generate 4%. Now, inflation is probably around 7%, so you're still losing it. But it's better than not earning anything. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that you just want to be able to deploy quickly. And that's what cash does. Because if you're holding it in an area that's meant for long term, you might need to sell your house and it could take 6 months. By the time that 6 months comes around and you have cash in your hands, the opportunity is gone. So I would say any salesperson or any individual, just have some cash. The other thing I would mention is that everyone says cash is king. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that because it gives you options.
Right.
But I always say cash flow is the emperor, right?
Damn right.
I would say that cash is king. That's great. But cash flow is the emperor. I want to get paid while I'm waiting. And that's why I like real estate as well. Dividend paying stocks are doing well. These infrastructure, these companies that as interest rates are rising, well, who does well? Well, maybe a mortgage company, a bank does well, an insurance company does well, because as interest rates rise, they could pass off of that cost to the end user.
Right.
So I think cash is king, cash flow is emperor. Find things that are going to cash flow positive, and then you're going to have a lot more money that you could deploy when the opportunity comes. But the other thing I do want to mention is that you want to think long, right? You want to think, well beyond a full market cycle. So a full market cycle is, let's say, 7 years or so. When I'm looking at investments, I'm not short term because that's gambling to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if crypto is going to be, if this particular coin is going to be the coin to be in the next little bit. I don't know. Do I believe in crypto? 100%. Absolutely. I believe in technology. I think we're a bit early.
Right.
But I'm thinking long. So am I investing it? Yeah, I'm investing it, but long term. It's my own personal money. So you want to think about, are there companies that over a full market cycle, over 7 years, will they still be around? I can't imagine, if we want to Google how to create a podcast or do research, that Google's not going to be the search engine of the world.
Right.
I can't imagine if we want to hook up the electronics to set up our entire system here, we're not going to utilize YouTube. There are companies out there that are almost, I would say they're almost an infrastructure company.
Infrastructure company.
Yeah, they're really ingrained in the way we live our life.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I think we can't be myopic. We can't be narrow-minded or short-sighted, because you're going to miss out on that opportunity. And so, I think as salespeople, find cash that pays you money. And then have the balls when you are going to pull the trigger. You're going to pull the trigger on something that's going to be long-term thinking.
Let me pick your brain on this, because again, as someone who's just starting his investment journey, a lot of my understanding of what could be a short or a long-term investment is still very cloudy. I just don't have the experience yet. So if you and I were, say, sitting at a white table having some wine, talking about this topic randomly,
okay,
and I asked you, hey, that's great. Think long-term, think 7 years ahead. What kind of questions should I be asking as I'm vetting companies or industries of, hey, will this be around for 7 years? Because for me, I might say something like, well, crypto will be around for 7 years because it's the future of financial transactions.
Right.
But we all know it's the most volatile market as of right now, because of all different factors, the timing, the technology, how it's implemented, you name it.
Right.
So if I was to look right now at companies, what are some basic questions I should be asking to see, hey, is this going to be around for 7 years?
Right. Great question. And let's take a look at Tesla, for instance. Tesla is probably one of the, biggest companies out there.
Right.
Elon Musk did exceptionally well, wealthiest man in the world. But if you take a look at the valuation, you're paying a lot of money for Tesla. It actually hasn't generated as much money as all the other companies out there, yet it's still the most dominant in terms of the most expensive company, richest guy in the world. So what I like to look at is, it's not necessarily the product. And I'm going to look at Dragon's Den, for instance. If you were to sit down and watch the Dragon's Den, oftentimes the product is okay or it's really good, but the dragons invest in the entrepreneur.
Always.
The dragon's going to be like, hey, look, this could fail, but I really love your energy. I believe in you.
Right.
So the first thing that I would say is, okay, let me take a look at the company. Number one, is it a good company? Is there a demand for that company? Is there an actual demand for it? You can have the greatest typewriter company, but not too many people are going to go back into typewriters. Sure, there's a demand. People are still going back to vinyl records.
Gotcha.
But isn't enough to make a lot of money. So I would look at, is there a demand? But most importantly, tell me about the leadership, the management of that company. Meaning, and I'm going to get a little gangster on you, is like, does the management team have the balls to take out their competitors when they have an opportunity? And the reason why I'm setting this up is, in a recession, your competitors are weak. So if you're a large company and you got a bunch of cash, you're either going to do two things. You're going to take out your competition, or you're going to buy them out, hostile takeover, take them out, or you're going to buy your own shares back because you have cash, which props up your own share value. So I would say is, does the leadership have the balls to take out their competitors and protect their moat around their business? I'll give you a great example. Zuckerberg was taken off, right? He was doing exceptionally well, and Zuckerberg is really good at it. So Mark Zuckerberg, of course, greatest, most powerful millennial in the world. So what does he do? He sees that Instagram is taking over Facebook. What does he do? Buys Instagram. He sees that not too many people are using Facebook Messenger because they're using WhatsApp. What does he do? Buys WhatsApp. So he's buying out his competition. Why? Because he has cash. Now you take a look at Microsoft, for instance. Microsoft is like, okay, Zuckerberg's buying everybody. What do? They buy LinkedIn, which is one of the largest acquisitions, in history. They did it, and most people don't realize that Microsoft bought LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the most trusted social media platform in the world, easily.
Right.
Microsoft buys them. Let's take a look at. Let me get a good example. Years ago, everyone was Googling things. Well, Donny, do you know what the second largest search engine in the world is?
I think I know this answer. Is it YouTube?
It is. It's YouTube, right? But prior to that, people didn't know it was the second largest. In fact, it's in terms of education and training. We wouldn't have learned the things we learned during the pandemic if it wasn't for YouTube. Google was smart. They saw that, wow, people are using YouTube as a search engine. So they buy them out. There's other companies, there are great stories out there where you take a look at the management of the company. And great example. Let's go back to Elon Musk, because I like Elon Musk. Plus, it helps our SEO when we're posting this, right? So Elon's done such a great job. I drive an electric car. I love the autonomous vehicles, the ability to move all over the place, put it in autopilot. Cool. It's really, really cool. So as Elon is getting more and more people excited and comfortable with getting into a car, clicking on autopilot, and it's driving itself, what does Google do? Well, Google invested in a company called Waymo. And you know this, right? You go to San Francisco, there's a lot of these Google cars. So, Elon Musk is focusing on the average user, where Google says, all right, Elon, you do that. Get everyone used to it. We're going to do commercial buses and taxis. And that's where Waymo is. So I like companies like that have visionaries leading it, because you can have the greatest idea in the world, but if you're a crappy leader, that's never going to take off.
Gotcha. So part of this is to look for companies that are aggressively or strategically expanding. Sounds like the underlying theme is acquisitions. Telltale sign of a company is strong, they can acquire their competitors, or acquire things, tech, people, market cap to might not necessarily be fortify their moat, but it's grow a competitive advantage because they have the buying power. If we were to extrapolate this, because part of it is just being smart in the marketplace, part of it is acquisitions. How would we say our common salesperson, right? They have a commission job, and let's just say they don't have the financial war chest. Where's the opportunities for them?
Well, you know what? You invest in the things that you have. What is your number one resource? It's you as a salesperson. So first thing I would do is I'd beef up my skill set on something, whether it's copywriting, public speaking, social media, whatever it might be. And during a recession, one of the things in the sales cycle, and you know this as a salesperson, is that it gives people that excuse to say, well, I don't have any money right now. Let me think about it. It gives them a viable excuse to put the sales process on pause. And that's okay. I get that, because you don't know what that uncertainty is going to lead to. The good salesperson uses that opportunity to prove their merit, to say, hey, look, we don't know what's going to happen in the next year, 2, 3, 4 years. We have no idea. But my product, here's what it's going to give you. It's going to simplify the overall process. It's going to increase your revenue, whatever it might be. It's the really skilled salesperson has the opportunity to make life less dramatic for that buyer. And I think there's a paradigm shift that has to happen. You move from being seller focused to buyer focused. Whereas a salesperson, you're like, I got to sell this. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna crush my presentation.
Right.
Be buyer focused. Ask them great questions. Make it about them, and spend a lot more time. Turn your existing clients or first time buyers as repeat clients. And that's what I would do. The other thing I would also say is, as a salesperson, I would focus entirely on the right client, because there's only so much energy. Get laser focus and be like, okay, this is my avatar. This is the client I'm going to focus on. Now let me craft the speech or craft the value proposition predicated around this person.
There's another opportunity here as well as salespeople, is that there's going to be a lot of pain right now. And I think, like you were saying there, Michael, craft the solution, because there's going to be a bigger pain. We know across the board, most likely everyone's going to be hit one way or another. There is financial tightening across the board. No one's really, ruthlessly just throwing money into the market right now. As you said, everything down from the Fortune 500, the markets, all the way down to your solopreneurs, your small business, has a trickle down effect into just your spending power individually in your house. And so part of being salespeople right now is there's going to be pain out there. And there's something holding back your client from being able to hit their results. And I wouldn't say it's easier, but now there's a common topic that we can all talk about, which is, hey, the recession, how's it affecting your business? Tell me about that. Hey, if this continues on in 60 more days, does that put you in a tight spot?
Exactly.
And really understanding, hey, there's something happening right now. There's something affecting our clients. Can we help solve this? Can our solution bridge that gap? And being able to bring that forth is a big opportunity right now in sales.
Huge. I think as a salesperson, your job is to uncover things that may or may not have been aware. They might not have been aware. Turn a need into a want. And essentially just ask those questions like, how have you recession-proofed your business? What have you done? Because you've done quite well, but hey, shit's going to hit the fan. How have you future-proofed your business? Number one. Secondly, is your process ready for what's ahead? Or is it about time for us to maybe revisit it? Because the good thing about a recession is, one, it puts people on pause. But if you could put people on pause, you could let them think, does this make sense? Can I do we need to pivot? Right? Do we need to do something different? And it just opens up that opportunity for the skilled salesperson to be able to gently disrupt and disturb. And if you're good enough and you're diligent enough, you're just there, constantly there, just add value. The other thing I would also say is, if you can, add a money back guarantee.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you talk about that all the time. Like you're so much conviction, because when times are good, great. Oh, my product's unbelievable. But when times are scary, you could say, yeah, if this fails, I'm going to give you your money back. And they're going to say, wow, Donny, your product is good. Prove it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. The good salesperson is waiting for them to ask that question to prove it. You're like, yes, awesome. This gives me license to show you how amazing we are and how much value we can add in this relationship.
You know, another way I think salespeople can really get prepared for this upcoming recession, this tightening, this scarcity mind that's going to be hitting your regular consumer. This is from personal experience. I am going to start researching my industry a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm going to start researching, hey, what's being innovative? What's happening in my industry specifically? I'm in the real estate property management / Airbnb. So I want to know, okay, what is everybody else doing? Right? Where are the opportunities in real estate, both in purchasing, in renting, in arbitrage? I want to know what's happening because as customers, they're navigating their own choppy waters, but it's great when they can speak to somebody who can be their lighthouse. Not necessarily have to say, hey, this is absolutely the way, but hey, this is what I've noticed. Here's some great resources. And I'm just sharing the knowledge. And I find that especially in the recession, that expertise, it goes a long way, even more so than usual. How do you think about that?
You know, you are great at that because you dominated that space in the sense that you are a subject matter expert. And whether or not they buy the Airbnb or the real estate or the property, whatever, they turn to you as someone who's trusted. And at some point in time, when they need to make a decision, they're going to go with someone they know, like, and trust.
That's right.
Right. And you've done such a good job. I think the most salespeople need to really be an authority leader in their industry. And how do you do that? Know the insides and outs of your competition. Like, you know your competition really well. Like, we've had conversations. You're like, yeah, here, this. Here's where they're flawed. Here's where they're good. Know your competition inside and out, not only just your own product, but everyone else's product or your biggest competition, but also know the trends in the industry, right? Because you want to show that you are fully committed. The last thing a client wants to do is be like, this guy might not survive a year from now. I'm going to build this relationship, he might not survive. So I completely agree with you, is to educate yourself about your industry.
Now, in terms of opportunities, where would you say the risks are? Again, you started the show by saying that, hey, there's predictable cycles, there's predictable events that trigger these types of recessions. So in knowing that, what are things that salespeople should watch out for?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer because there's so many factors and variables. What I would say is that you want to discern the difference between a trend and a fad, right? They look very, very close.
Trend or a
trend
fad?
or a fad. A fad could be something that's really cool in the short term. Great example, cannabis, right?
Right.
When it first started coming out, right? Everyone's like, yeah, let's jump into cannabis stocks, let's buy all this stuff. And okay, let's take a look at where the cannabis stocks are right now. They're not making any money. Right. So that is a trend. Oh, no, that's a fad.
And if I can just jump right in, the way you describe it, it makes me think of Peloton.
Yeah, it's a great example. Yeah, that was a trend. No, that was a fad.
Right.
Is very topical versus a trend. A long-term trend is, regardless of what's happening economically, will this company still survive? Do they still have a product? Do they have purchasing power or pricing power? Peloton's a great example. They did exceptionally well because people were stuck at home.
Right.
Now what are they doing? They're down 90%. So I think some of the risks is most people don't know the difference between a trend and a fad. If I'm long in our business as a salesperson, I'm going to try to find what is a long-term trend. How can I monopolize? I might miss out on a short term of the fad, but I'd rather have a sustainable business model versus one where, you're swinging for the fences. It could be good, could be bad. You never know.
What if salespeople are, for instance, they have a job and they just realize, holy cow, this is a fad. I'm going to get laid off pretty soon here.
Right.
What do you think they can do to hedge their bets? And maybe not even hedge their bets, but know that, hey, I'm going to get fired because this is very, it's not very recession proof,
right,
but I have these skills. Where's the opportunity for them, would you say?
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well, because first of all, we're blessed be blessed and thankful that you have a job during recession. But I would say if I have a job, a sales job, use that as an opportunity to get paid to learn, right?
Oh.
Like, you're getting paid to maybe practice a certain presentation skill, maybe social media, maybe digital technology, whatever it might be. But while you have a job, harness your skills. The other one is if your company can actually pay you to take courses, become unfireable.
Absolutely.
Right? Take as many courses as you can, and then use your job to hone that craft over time. Because it's inevitable, industries change, products change, but what is not replaceable is your skill set as a salesperson. That's transferable. Doesn't matter if you could sell a car, you could probably sell a house. If you could sell a house, you could probably sell insurance. If you could sell insurance, you could probably sell signage and advertisements. It's all the same thing. I would go, at the crux of this is, as salespeople, how do you win during a recession? And whether it's going to be a recession, a depression, stagflation, whatever it might be, a loss of your job, a physical health, a critical illness, a divorce, a heart attack, whatever it might be, something's going to hit you in the mouth. And if you're not willing, or if you don't have the ability to pivot and maneuver, then you're done, right? So I think the recession, going back to it, the recession is just a stark reminder of that anything can happen, anything can hit you, and have the mindset that there are opportunities. What are those opportunities? But also have a resource inventory. Like do a check. Like, what am I really good at? Who do I know? Who's in my network of friends? Like, what skills are transferable? Because if I get let go, I need to be able to jump from a different industry.
This makes me think about this as well, because it's, opportunities. And if you are a salesperson, Michael just said it, if you could sell a widget, you could probably sell a house. If you could sell a house, you probably sell a car. If you sell a car, you probably sell an online program.
Right.
So the fact that you understand how to close a deal, the fact that you understand how to prospect, the fact that you understand how to be solution-minded and make sure that you can solve problems by matching them to the right solutions. Because the biggest problem right now, we're talking about economic slowdown, we're talking about a slowdown in production, but ultimately what it means is companies don't know how to get more customers or sell existing customers, which is your job exactly. So here's the great news. One opportunity for salespeople, every single company is trying to find a way to get more customers.
Right.
Exactly your job. So if you're getting let go from, say, a fad, if you're getting let go from, say, just unfortunate circumstances, know that your skill set, you're about to enter a period where your skill set is going to be the most sought after skill in every single company that's going through this recession.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, if you're a business owner, your number one goal is not to produce a product or a service. Your number one goal is to be able to sell. That's it, right? You can have the greatest product in the world. If you're not selling anything, it doesn't matter, right? So I think business owners need to, view themselves as a salesperson, because that's what you're doing. You're selling your vision, you're selling your idea, you're selling yourself. And at the end of the day, how do you do that? You become someone of value, right? Look for the opportunities, understand the market you're dealing with, be that subject matter expert, have an immense amount of skills that are transferable. And at the end of the day, if you can do that, you're going to convey confidence. So in a world where everyone is scared, you're that guy standing up there who's like smiling and he's happy. You're like, that guy knows something that I don't know. And that's what we want to be as salespeople.
So once again, if you don't have a big war chest in the background, it's right now some great ideas is to refine your skills, do your research, be a beacon of light for your clients. Now, if you are stacked up with the cash, this isn't financial advice, but from what I'm seeing from our friends, our social groups, everyone is sitting on cash, waiting in acquisition mode. Right now, if you are if you run a team, if you run a sales team, here's something that you should start talking to your sales team about is, again, rounding up the troops, telling them and helping them understand that there's opportunity coming in front of them, but also understand it's, for the most part, people are worried about this. They're looking for answers, they're looking for confidence, and they're looking for experts to help give them information as they try and navigate this and learn more about it.
Absolutely. Just be empathetical, man. Just listen. Half the time, just listen to people, right? But
would love to know what you guys are doing out there in recession. If you have questions, please email us. Catch up to us. Emails in the show notes. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear of what you're afraid of. We'd love to hear if you're frustrated. More importantly, we want to know, Did you learn anything from this episode? Because if you did, we'd love to hear from you. This is season 2 of Ready, Set, Sell. I'm your host today, Donny Wong. And of course, across from me, your co-host, Michael Siervo.
Peace out. Good luck.